and I'll wait for it to show up on YouTube. Give us a second. Yeah, we'll just talk through the questions and
we'll have a good time. Is it working?
It's not up yet. Just whoop. There we go. We're live in there. Hey, everybody.
Okay. Hello.
I named myself something. Did you see what I did?
Lady, I did see that.
I was like, we'll have to do fun names for these as we go.
Oh, I love it.
It kind of matches the plaid on this too, but I have a Fraser tartan scarf that I bought myself a couple years ago. So.
Oh, I love it.
I'm always here for the Scottish love.
I
can't pronounce names. Hello.
Hi, Sydney. So this is my first live that I've ever hosted, so I don't really know what I'm doing. So Jen is the pro here. So I'm sorry if I mess things up. I just had to say that.
And I told her this is going to be the least dramatic one that we will possibly have because it's going to be awesome. But why don't you tell us though, like how this came about first though, since you approached me with this. So why don't you tell that and we'll give some people some time to get here.
Okay. So I really wanted to just have, like, I noticed there are lots of romance book clubs. Hey, Morgan. But there really wasn't one that was just dedicated to historical romance. And that's my favorite subgenre of romance. And I just wanted to have a book club just about that. And so I asked Jen, because she is my favorite and I know she has an extensive knowledge of historical romance. I asked if she wanted to do it with me, and she so kindly said yes.
I was just
so here we are.
I was so excited because it's so weird to me when people like ask me to do that stuff, because like I get like drug into a lot of these things and I love doing it. I don't say drug into, but I mean like people ask me, even though I always want to start them, but I never want to impose on people. And then people ask me and I'm like, yes, it feels so good to be like picked from the playground to do it.
Oh, I love it.
And also to possibly read historicals that aren't the most like popular ones. Granted, we started with one that, I mean, we both love Kerrigan Byrne, so that's fine. But to maybe read some like older ones, we already have some plans for some certain things, and not necessarily old by like go backwards to like Joanna Lindsay wise, like maybe we will, I don't know. But to read ones that like aren't just brought up every day, I think will be exciting, because I love that you said I have extensive knowledge of historical romance, when I really only read like 3 historical romance authors until this year. And I'm trying to push out to as many people as I can, as quickly as I can. And that's where I've started to find, because once I started going into darker romance, I thought I was moving away from historical. And then I found people like Kerrigan Byrne and Jennifer Ashley and everyone just went on in my head that I've ever read, but Scarlett Peckham, and be like, they can do it dark too, like, because that's where my happy place is. So, yeah. So, okay, well, Crystal gave us some questions ahead of time to kind of work through. And so you guys in the comments who are watching, of course, this is book club, even though it's just us on the screen, but please like put your answers in as we go through them. I will talk nonstop if people don't stop me. So throw your stuff up and I'll make sure to shut up and let you talk.
But we love that about Jen.
I'll talk forever. So I actually only wrote the answers to the questions, not the questions. So maybe you should say the first question.
Okay, I have the questions. So yeah, I just got some questions, because if I don't have something guiding me, then I am like, I just loved it so much, you guys. I just loved it. And so I guess what we could start with is overall impressions. That's not a question, but like, what did you rate this book and how did you feel about it overall?
Yeah. Well, I rated it a 5 stars. And I agree. I like to have questions, because that's something I struggle with even in reviewing things that I'm not doing a NetGalley review for, is I just give things a 5-star and like run and leave. Like, as I've shared, I have over 200 5-stars this year, because I'm just like, it's a 5-star, move along. But my like impressions of it are, another out of the park hit for Kerrigan Byrne. She has this way of, each time I start a book by her, I'm like, okay, how mopey is this gonna be? I know that sounds dramatic, but I'm like, okay, what's everyone's damage this time? But she somehow manages to do that and still, like, it's so meaningful what our characters have been through, and it never feels like she's showing trauma for shock value. She has a way of, in her prologues, to just gut you. Like, I mean, my entire stack of her back here, like every prologue of that book, of those books, have hit me so hard. And she has a way of making me invested in the people immediately. Like, I immediately am like, I love you. Let me be here for you, whoever the character is. So my immediate impression is, like, the way to say it, it's a 5-star for me. And obviously we're going to get into the whys of it, but that's my immediate impression today.
I gave it a 5-star too. I honestly feel like I have not loved a Kerrigan Byrne book. So this is my 4th book of hers that I have read, and I have loved every single one. Has been a 5-star for me. And I like you said, like the prologue just hits you so hard and makes you instantly connected to these characters, and you are so emotionally invested in them. Like Cecilia, like I just, after that first prologue, I just loved her. Anyway, I'm getting into other questions, but I really just loved it. I mean, there, like with any book, there are things we could pick at, and I do have a few, like I have one thing that we're going to talk about in a minute, but overall I just loved it. So 5 stars.
Yeah, let's see. The hero had to grow on me. Yeah, I have some stuff to say about him. The prologue took you right in. Yes, right there. Celia, that was so great. Yeah, that was great. So yeah, what was that, the first question, or was that the overview question?
That was just an overview. I added that. So the first question is, what did you like best about this book?
Okay. So I said, and now I already am like, I have so much more to say than this, but I did say that I liked this. I liked that she was a strong woman and had progressive ideas without it like going off the rails. I know that's like specific to Celia, but she was in a lot of ways my favorite part of this book. Also because I feel like the author consistently described her as a plus size woman. That's a complaint I have in a lot of books that will have a plus size woman in them, is that the author will set them up as such and then have them doing crazy acrobatic things where I'm like, that is not a plus size woman's body that you're explaining. I think you put her in here for diversity and then didn't follow it through. And I feel like it was constantly brought up, both in how Ramsey was thinking about all of her lushness, as well as like her getting in her clothes and like explaining things. And so that's something I really loved about it, as well as I said the plot. I thought the plot was really great, and I liked both sides of the POV for this. I could see both sides of the characters' motivations, and I just understood a lot of the decisions that they made. Not everything, but for most of it. So, yes. Yeah, I've just been lucky, guys. I will say this. I've read like 6 books this month with plus-size women in them. Eloisa James writes a ton of plus-size women. I had never realized it. But going through her books, there was a list of hers, and I found a ton of them. What's this? Oh, what Eloisa James one did we read? Are you talking about 4 Nights with the Duke that you read with me, Patty? Just want to make sure, because we can talk about that on Sunday when we do it, but I got things to say about that one too. But anyway, that's what I like best.
I'm going to put Morgan's comment up there too, because I think it's really good. So I honestly, I really feel like I just loved everything about this book. I really loved the hero. And I know Sydney said that he kind of had to grow on you. And there were some times when I was like, I don't know about him, but he just like wanted her so much through the whole time that I just knew he was going to just melt for her at some point. And when he did, and he just was so soft just for her, like her tenderness and sweetness just like finally got to him. And when he let that get to him, I was just like, this is just so perfect. I loved it so much. I do.
That's like, you describe heroes that way a lot, so that's why.
That's what I like. So I know when people's like, he's a jerk, I'm like, but just wait,
Right.
he's gonna make up for it, and that's something that I super loved. I also really loved the plus size representation of Cecilia.
Mm-hmm.
Am I forgetting her name? Cecilia.
Oh, I said Celia because that was her nickname.
And I don't know. I also really loved the, I don't know, the transformation. I think the thing that I liked so much about that with heroes, and especially Ramsey in this one, is like how it completely transforms them, how they're just like so set in his ways. Like he didn't want a woman, he kind of hated women, and then towards when the end of the book comes and he's completely on board with being behind Cecilia to like build back up her gambling hell and stuff like that. Like I don't know, I just loved it. I just really loved Ramsey. So,
and the author reveals those layers, which I know we're going to get to, but like she reveals those layers too of you're like, oh, he's one of those guys that's really into ladies, but he's a hater. You know, is he going to be like that pastor that's like, oh, because I was explaining this to someone. I said, oh, he reminds me of Frollo, you know, Frollo from the Hunchback, where he's like, I want you, but I hate you because you make me want to sin. And like that isn't what's going on with him, but it's a first impression. And I like that. We could change that. So yes, let's see what some people said. Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's like a must for a Kerrigan Byrne well done. I mean, really any good story, but they both have like such intense hardships that they've been through too. I just love that.
There's Sydney's comment. I love the depth of the, yes, totally.
Yeah. I love that too. It's
so good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Patty's, I liked the Kerrigan Byrne things.
Yeah. Have you read any other books by her? So that's another question. I know some of you said you did, but how many of you read like this was your first thing? Or maybe you read How to Love a Duke first and then read this. Like I want to see that come through as we go, but
okay, so next question time.
Yeah.
So now the next one is, what did you like the least about this book?
Sure. How about you go first this time?
Okay, I'll go first. So I think the only thing that I like, honestly, I had to think about this because I seriously just love this book. So probably most, if you watch my videos, you know, if the hero is like that, I can overlook a lot of things if I get that redemption where he just totally, you know, gets smitten with her. But I did feel like in this book, it took them a lot longer to get together, and there weren't a whole lot of scenes where they were together, even up until I think it was probably like maybe halfway when you finally started to get more scenes. And before that, it was just sort of background plot and then kind of meeting each other here and there. And so if I had to pick something apart, I would say I would have liked to have more scenes with them together. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I didn't like about it.
Okay. Seeing that this was a lot of people's first, or How to Love a Duke.
Alicia.
Yeah, that is a very long title. So good on you for making it shorter. There used to be a prompt in one of the readathons, read a book with a title of more than like 5 words. I think it was in the historical romance, like the first round that they did. And I was like, that is true. There's a lot of historical, like very long names.
So Cynthia says this was her first. Patty's, this is her first.
Oh, good. I'm so excited for you, Patty. She's
Sydney's
amazing.
read 3, so this is her third. Maya, this was her first. Morgan, all 3 of them 5 stars for me. Yes. And then I put Alicia's on there first. Okay, cool.
I've only given some 5 stars. So, okay. So me, again, I felt the same way. I don't have much written. The thing that I did call out is that I feel like there wasn't enough time at the gambling den where we're seeing Celia get a feel for it. And maybe some of that's by design so that she wouldn't pick up on what's happening there. But I feel like the way that it's written, which it made it very like exciting. Like you got to admit, the beginning of this book, like we're just dropped right into everything. And the author does that with a lot of her books. It's great because a lot of times historicals try to build you for too long. But she shows up the day that he's coming there, and then there's like thing, and then like she's gone to Scotland with him. So this place that she had like inherited, I wanted her to have more time there to like be with the women who are there and to learn more about the school so that she really could be on their side more, because I understand why she is on their side. I would be on their side, but there wasn't enough of those moments of her interacting with the women who work there and like stay there. There was just that scene where she shows up and the lady's having sex in the garden.
Yeah, I forgot about that scene.
Like, I don't know if I walked in and saw that, if I'd be like, yeah, Ramsey, there's nothing bad going on here. Like, give her some more time to like see what's going on before she would back it up. You know what I mean? Like I wanted her to be backing it up for more than just, oh, this is a place where women live and I need to take care of it. Ramsey's accusations, which I know we're going to get to those, like they are very serious. And I would want to investigate myself before I just told him you're wrong. Like they're very serious allegations, and I understand why he was so anyway, that basically is my complaint, is that for how long it took for them to get together, I wish that some of that had been her with the women and getting to know them so that she would have more of a reason to be fighting for them, because I get why she is, I would be, but I wanted to see it, not just hear it. So
that's true. That's honestly a great point. I know Morgan said, I put it up there for a minute, that she wanted more of the Red Rogues. Yeah, I totally agree with that. You really didn't see, is it Francesca? You really didn't see her much at all in this one, huh? So she's going to be in the next book.
But I feel like in the first one, we didn't see them a lot either. I mean, we saw Francesca in that one, but she was important in that one because she was the one who was going to marry the Duke. So we needed to see her and see that it wasn't going to work. But in this one, like Cecilia is independent, you know? So, I mean, I agree with it though. I love the Red Rogues. I wish we could have I hope she makes a prequel someday of like, of some of their adventures. Would be great.
That'd be so great.
And, you know, but I loved it. Was it Jean? What's the name of the old guy?
It was like Jean Ives or
yes, I love him. I
loved him so much. He was one of my favorite parts.
I love so that good. He's kind of there, like he's kind of like a surrogate dad to like all three of them, because he helps her there when no one else would be there for him. Because they say she like bought him to come with them, but basically he loved them, so he was like, I'm gonna come with you and make sure that you're safe. And I love that she's like, I want to take care of you now. And when he when he does the thing, I was like driving home from my sister and I'm like bawling. I was like, oh my God, don't do it. Don't do this to me. I was real worried because she's not afraid to kill darlings. And I was like,
know. I was worried he was going to be a goner too. And I was like, please don't kill him. Kill anybody except for those three.
Yeah, I was like, leave my babies alone. All
right. The next question is, what did you think of the hero? You can go first on this one.
Okay. Well, I wrote, I loved him. 10 out of 10, which I did actually rate both of them. And he was 10 out of 10 for me because he has everything that I'm looking for in my broody Scottish man. So I also think that personally, I liked him better than the last one from the last one, just because he had legitimate reasons for being worried about this woman. We don't know them at the beginning, so we think he's just being an ass. But once his full reasons are realized, I was like, dude, I wouldn't have even been nice to this lady. You know, like the things that this place is accused of, the things that her aunt had done to him, the things that like, I would have been much meaner than he was. So I thought all of his reasons were justified when he was, and then that I don't know. I feel like his change is like really good. And I mean, even what he's asking her to do, like I know feminism's the reason, but like the time period we're living in and what her job is and what his job is, and the fact that in the position he's in, he's trying to save children and the people that are down and out. It's not like he's just a stuffy, justice who's doing this for the money. Like he's trying to do things with it. So it's equally fair that neither of them would want to give up their livelihoods. And if he is married to a woman who's running this, he's not going to be able to do his job. So that's where I think Kerrigan does this so well with him, is that in any other book, if a dude was just like, you need to give this up so that we can do it, like, I understand his conflict where he's like, but my job is saving people. And she's like, well, my job is saving these people. And it's like, but you just got this last week. Like, I've been working my whole life. It's like, there's not a perfect answer. There's not a perfect answer. So then I also said, yeah, sexy, brooding, Scottish, all the things, great occupation. And he's trying to save children who are being kidnapped into slavery and used as sex slaves. And nobody was doing that then. So he's just all the things that I love in a man, let alone in a romantic hero. And so he was 10 out of 10 for me. I, of course, listened to this on audio, and the narrator of these always makes the Scottish heroes like sex on a stick for me. And
so true.
There you go. There's all of me. See if you can add anything to that.
I don't know. I don't know if I can. Like, I feel like I feel like you had a much more well thought out reason for liking him. I'm just like, he's just so great, but I think like, so I really, honestly, I don't know if it's because I trust Kerrigan Byrne or just because I'm such a sucker for that trope of just the grumpy hero who, then just becomes this big ball of tenderness for the woman. But the thing that really made me love him the most was in that scene when he had just killed the deer and they were like hiding, trying to protect Cecilia and Phoebe comes and asks him to teach her how to swim in the loch, and she didn't know what a loch was. And just seeing how tender that he was with her and how patient, and like he was just instantly so just loving and tender with her. And that moment when he realized that, or when he realized that he wanted to have a life with Cecilia and Phoebe, that was just like, I felt like that was the moment when we started to see him change and really try to win her.
And when he thought that he couldn't be with Celia, and he's like, but I still want to be a part of Phoebe's life.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that he has more of a reason to be a part of her life either. Like, but yeah, I love a dude with kids too. So
I do too. I really do.
I'm into it.
Okay, let's see. Do I have anything else? I think I've pretty much talked about how much I adore him. He's really probably one of my top 10 heroes of all time. I love how he was just so, like you said, like the audiobook narration for him was so perfect. They got his like brogue so good. And I loved how fiercely protective he was of them and how that brought out his tenderness with them. I just love the way that she described those moments. It was just perfect. I loved it. So
yeah. Yep.
All right.
Well, how about Cecilia, or Cecil is her persona. So I gave Celia an 8 out of 10. She's not my favorite heroine I've ever read, but obviously I've already shared some of the things I love about her. I think that her representation was really great. I love that she's smart. I love that she's bookish. I love that she is willing to step in and try to help these women, even though it's just dropped on her lap. And she's just like, this is way more than I need to take. And oh my gosh, I need to go ahead of the Chief Justice the day that I show up. And like, what's going on? But what really made me love her, and then like I took a little dip, is like, I love her in that first chapter, right? When she's at the party and Ramsay and the prince are both like, and we're seeing her from Ramsay's head, and he's just like, oh my God, I can't look at her because I'm getting older. I need to look away. And I I love that stuff so much. But then she like kind of took a dip for me, because she had this like strong, take no shit, like I am not, like, both of you men can F off. I'm not dealing with either of you. And then when she got to the gambling hell, she kind of just like got pushed around by, it's Janine. Is it Janine?
Genevieve. I can't remember.
Whatever. She just like let her like drag her around with it. And that just didn't seem like the woman that was just set up before. So I don't know. There was just a little like, as soon then though, as she was in front of Ramsey again, she was like, I'm not taking any shit. So I don't know if it's just supposed to be that like he brings that out in her, but yet everyone else thinks the same. So I don't know. I there was just something about her interactions with other women, which could be because some women are not as great with other women, and then with men they can put on this thing. But yes, and I agree. Like she was great. But for the kind of woman that we're shown, again, I wrote down like she was a little too biddable about her benefactor. Like she was just willing to do like whatever was laid out before her because benefactor said so. And again, that's true. Back to, I wish she had more time at that place to look into everything, because I feel like she would have figured out what was happening if she'd been there longer. Which maybe is why it got blown up. Like, who knows? But anyway, so she was wonderful. I loved her, but it's still like a 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10 for her. That specifically, I've read better Kerrigan heroines than her. But I love how bold she was. I loved a lot of things about her. But
yeah. See, and I feel like she's probably in the top 2 heroines from Kerrigan Byrne for me. Like, I really loved her, and I didn't think too critically about how she went along with everything that the benefactor wanted her to do. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just like anytime that she stood up to Ramsey specifically, I was like 10 out of 10, girl, yes. But then when it came to the benefactor, then I was like, oh, I don't mind. You can do whatever she says, So it's interesting that I didn't really connect that, but I feel like something that really impressed me with Cecilia specifically is how, she's really been through a lot of crap, and she's had a lot of like, that prologue was so just heart-wrenching. But then as she gets a lot of crap along throughout her life from people, making comments about her looks and her weight, and she never lets that make her bitter or make her like, she still maintains that sweetness and that kindness and that forgiving personality. And I just really admire that, because I feel like in my own life, I have a tendency to like, if somebody wrongs me, I'm like, goodbye, you're done to me, like we cannot. And I just really loved how she was so still she never lost that sweet, tender, loving personality that she had. I mean, along with like, I loved how she was so like smart and just really loved like math, because I feel like that's not super common that we see in books. I loved how her intelligence was such a strong point of her personality, but I also really loved how she was seen as such a nurturing and kind woman too. So I don't know. I just loved her.
Great. That's a good enough reason. I will say there's still a few heroines you have to read yet.
That's true. She might get bumped down. Who knows?
No, she's great. She's great. My point is like, she's shown how smart she is, and then I don't see it put into action in certain ways. But you can be bookish smart and not life smart, and the two shall never meet, right?
Totally. Yeah. It almost seems like that's more common, right? To have someone be super book smart and not. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Cool.
All right. So
nobody really said anything about Celia. I know we're all here for the sexy men.
So the next question is, what did you think of the romance?
I mean, I thought it was great tension. The build was really great. I loved that he was constantly obsessed with her and like kind of mad at himself, because he's like, come on, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to be led around by our genitals anymore. It's not happening. And then he looks at her and he's just like, I want her so bad. So I agree with what you said earlier, and that's why I actually don't have it as like the highest one. Is it was all talk and like not a ton of action in this one, and I'm cool with it. But y'all know, well, maybe you don't, but like I'm the smut queen, and Kerrigan writes great stuff. Okay, it's great, and there's just a lot of talk, and then it happens, and then it's the end. And I'm not a huge fan of that. I like, especially, that's why I love historicals, because a lot of time in historicals, people get married at the beginning or in the middle, or they're together before. And see, I like that. And in a lot of contemporary, you don't get, because you have to like be married before you have sex in some of them. So usually we're getting married right away so that we can have sex more. Being real. Okay.
All right. So my turn.
So like it doesn't like me, but yes, and I love that. But I think this like here I'll hear what you say about the romance, but I think it leads into your next question too. So, or where do you ask the flame? You asked that like at the end, don't you?
Yeah, that's the last. Oh,
okay.
We can go and should we go to that one next?
Yeah, because I was thinking I think we kind of go together. But
yeah, let's do that one. Well, so honestly, like that's really what I was thinking too. Like for Kerrigan Byrne, I feel like this romance especially was very slow building, slow burn. And that kind of surprised me a little bit. But I also feel like I didn't really mind it because anytime they were together, there was like maximum tension. And I loved how it was so often from Ramsey's point of view. Like that, I really loved the contrast of the prologue where, you know, like her father figure or whatever was really just like railing on her about how fat she was and how unattractive she was. And even the, you know, Jenny, when she came and saved her, like they talked about that too. So you kind of get there feeling like bad for her, and she's feeling sort of bad about her body. And then in the very next scene, the next chapter, you have Ramsey there dying over her, watching her eating chocolate, and I'm just like, oh, I love this. I just felt like,
I know my kilt isn't thick enough.
I loved how obsessed he was with her and how attractive she was to him. I feel like their chemistry was just fantastic. I loved it. And I liked how it wasn't just chemistry, you know, like I feel like Kerrigan hits a really great balance, especially in this book, of having both parts, like emotional and sparks, heat. It was perfect.
And once you find out how he was manipulated, it wouldn't have made sense if he had been willing to have sex with her right away, especially because he knows where she came from and he assumes that she's under the tutelage of her aunt. So if he had been willing to bang her right away, he wouldn't have learned anything.
Yeah, true.
So once we find out about him, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is why there's so much sexual tension in him, is because he's holding himself back, as well as she's forbidden to him just because of where she's from. So yeah. So then the steam factor, flames, did you say flames?
Yeah, how many flames do you give this for steaminess on a scale of 1 to 5?
I actually gave it a 3 out of 5.
I did too.
Because, which is okay, but like, I've read more. And for all we say for sexual tension, like I don't equate sexual tension with actual like flames. Because you're not doing anything, but that doesn't mean it's bad. There doesn't, like, the romance can still be sex and steamy without it being sex all the time. It's just, there wasn't that much sex in it. And then once they did have it and he finds out that she was a virgin, he's like, oh, great. We're not doing this again. So I gave it a 3 out of 5. There could have been more, as I said, but it was hot, the stuff we did get, but.
For sure. And like you said, you know, like Kerrigan Byrne really, really does it well, you know? And so I was a little bit surprised that it was such a step down, but it does make sense with the story. And I mean, I wasn't mad at it. I feel like what we got was great. And I really like sexual tension. Like, give it to me. That's what I want. I want to see them like fighting, and you know, like I really love that. So
I didn't even know it. Yeah. Oh, girl. You found the right. You found the right. I'm getting Crystal there too. Like we were talking about dark romance yesterday, and I was like, I will get you there. Okay. But I did make a note that the contrast between I don't know how, because a lot of you said this was your first one, so I don't want to spoil the first one for you, but there's an interesting contrast between like that he gets in and realizes she's a virgin versus what happens in the first one, where the reason why it's called 10 Days with the Duke is they're not having sex yet. And that one still felt like there was more sex in it to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe because they were trying everything else but the thing. So that's just as hot in my opinion. But yeah. But it was great. And it's fine, Sydney. Sorry, I can't pronounce things. I want to say Cindy because my brain changes things around. But like, you're not here for as much steam. That's great. I mean, historicals, you're usually going to be at a 3 just in general, you know?
Yeah.
If it's one with sex in it, it's probably at a 3. But one thing Kerrigan Byrne does too is she does like dirty thoughts and dirty talk really good. So it makes you feel like you're getting a lot more out of it than when you look back and you're like, oh, there was actually only 2 sex scenes in this book. But it felt like we were talking and thinking about it a lot. Real life anyway.
That's so true. And I feel like the only reason I even mentioned that is just because it was so different from her other books that she usually has way more in it, you know. But yeah, I'm the same way, Sydney. Like I mean, I feel like as long as there's, I don't know, like it's just got to be a good mix for me, you know. So, and I feel like this was great.
Yeah, it's all the book of itself. Like each book you go into, and you're gonna have a different feeling about it, and so you know that's just how it's gonna be. But she does it really. I still loved the connection between the two of them, and I wouldn't talk points because there was less of it in there.
For
Some
sure,
books are good, but this one I wouldn't. All right.
So the next question is, what did you think of the plot?
Right. I liked it a lot, actually. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I just kept rating everything because it was easiest. I give the plot an 8 out of 10 for this, 4 out of 5 for the plot. I didn't like that. I've already said a lot of this stuff. I didn't like that she didn't question things as much. But it seems that she doesn't have a lot of time to do that because everything's moving really quickly. I did love the motivation for Ramsay. He was a very, very good man to me, and that just makes me very happy. Like he felt so edgy because we're seeing all of his like conflict, but I loved that he just wanted to root out corruption and that he wanted to like get that stuff out. I think when you finally read A Dark and Stormy Night, you'll see like there's a lot of parallels between Morley and him. A lot. It was great. I love that he was trying to rescue children. Like that just really like that makes me so happy because even today that is a horrible issue that it just doesn't get talked about enough because it makes people uncomfortable. And in the time that he was living, like nobody was doing that. Like nobody was being like, there are kids being kidnapped into it's like, well, they're poor and no one cares about it. Yeah. Like they're gonna die on the streets anyway, you know, and so I adored that. I did not expect that Phoebe was his. I just did not have a single clue. And when the pieces fall in, like literally real time with Ramsay, I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, when's your birthday? And I was like, no, but of course. But like, no. The thing though that again, I wish we had examined her aunt a lot more because I don't think this woman was a good woman at all. And I'm glad that she took care of Celia because Celia needed someone to sponsor her and like pay forward with that things. But I will tell you, there was a good part of me that wasn't sure if the aunt was involved or not. And I know that that's because Janine was like doing a lot of things in the aunt's name, but she did some things shady on her own. Like not telling her, like I have a gut feeling that someday she was going to use Phoebe against him. If she ever needed him to do something for her to be like, you know what? Actually, she had a baby. This baby's yours. Like that to me seemed a very clear setup because she then left that child to Celia as her ward for the clues to kind of be there, you know? So I don't know. I mean, we can never know because there isn't stuff directly from the aunt herself, but she definitely wasn't a like great woman. And the way that she mistreated Ramsay, who was never coming after that woman because he hated her until she sent someone to corrupt him. Like she sent someone to do that to him. And for how a passionate and loving man he was, he's been a eunuch all this time because of her aunt. He has lived the way he's lived because of her. And that just really like, I just didn't have great feelings about her aunt at all. And that doesn't make her completely black or white. Like she did provide this home for women, but she also created an environment and kept someone by her side who was hurting people. And I feel like she should have been paying more attention and known that Janine would be like, I don't know. That's just me projecting, but that's not a bad part of the plot. This is me saying the good stuff about it because I saw all those layers in there and I was just like, oh, I want more. Like I want them to cover more from her office and to find more things. And but yeah, so I was completely blindsided. And then as soon as it was done, I was like, Jen, whenever there's a kid, it belongs to somebody. Like that should have been in my head. Like I should have known, but still I was just like, oh my gosh, Phoebe's his. Oh my God. Like I was so happy. But also that it just slipped right by me. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, I had no idea. Jenny seemed so great because Jenny's the one who like rescues her in the beginning. And you know, I don't know. So
and that's totally how I felt. Like I did not, I'm sorry, I overtook you. Did you have like I honestly was really surprised by the plot. Like I was really surprised that Phoebe was his. I had no idea, like literally. And I remember like I messaged Jen when I got to that part and she's like, so what did you think about Phoebe? And I'm like, I had no idea, like literally did not even think that that was going to be his. But I was really shocked with Jenny too, because I don't know if it was how like her role of Cecilia's savior at the beginning, like how she saved her. And so from such a terrible situation that I was like, well, she must be good. She's the savior. So I'm not going to think anything bad about her. So I was really surprised when, yeah, she turned out to be terrible. So
Cynthia, don't make fun of me. I just mean, it's that thing of Chekhov's gun in a room. Like, if the baby's showing up, the baby belongs to somebody, you know? So I was just like, but where was I going to go with it? Oh, yeah, like, that was the thing. Like, we're getting close to the end, and I'm like, well, is it going to be that her aunt just was involved? Like, I don't know who this is, because that's the thing, too. I just feel like the one tweak, too, that did take it down to an 8 out of 10 for me was that I don't see what the clues were that Jenny did it. And so for such a good mystery put in, I'm a big proponent that like the evidence for it should be there for you. I know this is a romance and not a mystery, so it doesn't have to follow the same lines as it. But I just felt like, how was I supposed to guess this was Jenny? So that's why I wanted us to be going through more of her stuff, like going through more of the papers and things, and there to be a hint. You know, maybe there had been forged documents and Ramsay had been like, these weren't done by her, you know, or just something to that the hints had been there. Because it was a great surprise that it was Jenny, but I think it was a surprise because there wasn't any evidence at all. So maybe I'd have to reread it from the beginning, because I just had no idea so.
And I feel like Kerrigan Byrne she does such a good job of making you interested in both the romance and the plot at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of historical romance writers don't get that right. You know, it's either one way or the other. And I feel like for me, she hit that perfectly. Like I was interested in the plot, but I of course was super interested in the romance. And maybe that's why I didn't pick up so much stuff on the plot, because I'm like, but are they going to get together? I mean, you know, they're going to get together, but are they?
Because you've only read one and two of both series, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I am like concurring with you about that, because 3, 5, 6, and 7, like number 4 is the only one that I didn't really care. I didn't really like number 4 at all. It was still like a 3.5 star because it's her.
Is that the Duke? Is that what one is that?
Yeah, that's the Duke.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I just was looking at him today.
he's not going to make your top 10 hero list. He's an asshole. But the heroine is amazing. I know. But I kept reading because of the heroine in this one. She's really interesting. But I mean, the Highlander, the Scott beds his wife, the Duke with the Dragon Tattoo, and that all great, which I know we're going to rank them in a little bit here, but I mean, that's what I'm just telling you is like all of them have great mystery plots going on and they're sexy as hell. So
it's a win-win.
Yeah, the plot seemed more engaging than the Rogue of Fifth Avenue, for example. Well, I just had a lot of problems with the Rogue of Fifth Avenue. So
see, and I really liked the plot to the Rogue of Fifth Avenue, but I didn't love the romance of the Rogue of Fifth Avenue as much. So I felt like I loved that plot, but it was like it wasn't a good balance for me, you know. But yeah, but I liked this plot better, Patty, for sure, than the Rogue of Fifth Avenue.
Exactly. The plot is much better, and for me, a fantastic romance forgives problems in the plot. But if I don't love the romance, I'm noticing the problems in the plot. So that's what for me is that I didn't like Frank, and the woman was annoying me the whole time too. And they had dirty talk in their sex, but I was like, I don't really like you guys. And so then the plot with the woman, then I was like, okay, all right, whatever. So that one was just not the same. What do you mean about Sophie Jordan, Patty? Finish that question. But yeah, so the plot, what would you like rate the plot then? I know I'm like rating everything, but what would you rate it out of 10?
Honestly, I would probably rate it a 9 for me. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm being more generous than you tonight.
Okay. These are arbitrary numbers, Crystal. Like it's an 8 compared to what? You know, like I don't rate any other plots that I do. I just, when I thought about it, I was like, I would give the plot part like a 4 out of 5. So I'll give it an 8 compared to like, you know, this is arbitrary things. Yep. I know. I'm just not a fan of, I don't know how she writes too. I mean, the thing too that I love about Kerrigan Byrne is she manages to still write a historical in the style that I like, but it's sexier and still edgy. And she's still able to bring in feminist themes without me feeling like I'm listening to a pamphlet, which is how I felt about the Rogue. What's the one with the Duke bringing down the Duke, or the Rogue.
Oh yeah.
Like they're preaching at me, and I'm like, I don't need to be preached at, because here's the thing too. Most of the women reading this book with you don't need to preach to us. I just want a sexy man and a fun dress, you know. So that's what I don't like. Side tangent. That's what I don't like about women's fiction historical novels, because there's so much wrong with how that was, but also it's the life that they were living, and like things have gotten better. So let's just enjoy the story. I know that stuff's messed up, you know, whereas this one, it was individually like, I'm trying to save these women. Yeah. I'm not trying to change women as a whole. You know, I'm not trying to change that as a whole. So anyway.
And it seemed more realistic. Like I felt like this plot, I mean, I feel like it felt so realistic, you know, where like you said, like Cecilia was trying to help this group of women, and her thoughts about her position in the world as a woman were very progressive for her time, but not in a way that you felt like
she went to college. She's one of 3 women at college, you know, like it's there, but it's just stated in her character. It's not her going around saying like, do you know the trouble I went through when I was only one of 3 women at school? It's like, it's there in the pages. Like that's why they had to make a group. That's why they had to make the Red Rogues, because no one else was looking out for them, you know. Show don't tell. It's a thing for a reason.
Exactly.
But
I love it.
Number 7. This was hard. I had to Google people.
I did too. And I still don't know how I feel about my choices, but okay. So this one is, if you were making a movie of this book, who would you cast? You go first.
Sure. So I picked Ian Glenn, but like younger. So he's from, I don't know if you know what he's from, but he was in Downton. He was in Game of Thrones. He is Scottish. So I did look up Scottish men, because I was like, let me start with Scottish men. And obviously Sam Heughan is on all the pages. I'm like, not right. Nor do I know until the Silver Fox level with like don't want to go there. So I settled with like Ian Glenn, but like 10 years ago when he had a little more hair still, but he's so sexy and I was just here for it. And then for the woman, I did pick an American. I picked Christina Hendricks, who was in Mad Men.
Oh, yeah.
Busty, but tall as well. And that's, and she also has red hair. Like I looked up curvy actresses and then she had red hair and she's really tall. Like I think she's almost 6 feet. And she just has a really like elegance about her and that really like, well, I mean, she has makeup on in every picture, but that really like pale, creamy, like luscious look to me. And even though she's like American, she has that really class. And I mean, people can do. I don't know about Emma Stone, Cynthia. She's too like quirky girl, and she's also not curvy.
I thought about her too, but she is so thin that I was like, no.
She's goofy too. Like I don't know. That's just, and not that someone can't act some other way. Whatever. Yeah. Absolutely. But just even in the serious stuff I've seen with her, I can't. But like Christina Hendricks just had that look of like she's such a luscious, and there's a picture of her in this red dress on the red carpet, and I was like, yep, I can see it. But
well, so I did not I did not go with Scottish actors, honestly.
Okay.
I just went with a guy that was big and strong, and like the only one I could really think of who would be perfect is Thor, like Chris Hemsworth, that's his name, right? Because I'm not up to date with my Hollywood actors like Sydney.
I mean, I'll read him in a book anytime. I mean,
but I mean, like the way that she was always describing like just how huge he was and how powerful and strong he was, that I was like, yeah, I guess that would work. But I spent more time trying to figure out who would be a good actress for Cecilia.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like I thought Adele, even though she doesn't have red hair, like, you know, from a few years ago, Adele, I felt like she would have been perfect. And there was an American actress who does have red hair named Sarah Rue, who would be good. And then I found a model who has red hair, and she's a plus size model, but she doesn't necessarily look plus size. I don't think so. I think she looks very normal, but I could see her too, and her name was Allegra Doherty. But I don't know. I don't have a perfect one. I like Christina Hendricks.
I don't picture people when I read. That's a funny question too. So even when there's like cover models on a book, I just never picture people when I read. Like unless I'm reading a book to movie something, I just don't. I kind of just have like, they're not faceless to me, but I either have a self-inserted version of me that fits the character because I'm reading romance.
Right, yeah.
Or I like picture a voice, but not a hat. I know it's a weird thing, but I think part of it too is just how much that I read that I don't picture a person every time, but yet I'm still able to see it. So when I'm like told to pick an actor or actress, unless there's someone that like in the book, someone says, oh, he reminded me of the God of Thought. Like I just read a book where someone described someone as Thor. So that's why I wanted to do that. Dan Malone, he's like, she describes him as a Viking, and that's who I like see. But otherwise, I don't really like picture people. So it's really hard to be an actor.
And I feel like I never pick famous people, but like I have in my head like 4 or 5 heroes and heroines that just kind of get rotated depending on how they're described. So like I know what he looks like in my head, and I know what she looks like in my head, but I have not found the perfect actress, real life person for that. Yeah. But okay, next question is, what other books by this author have you read? We talked about this a little bit. So I'll go first since mine are shorter. I've read The Highwayman, The Hunter, How to Love a Duke in 10 Days, and this one.
Nice.
And I think that The Highwayman still reigns supreme for me. Like how do they compare to this book was the second part of this question. The Highwayman is still my favorite, I think. But I feel like I've liked this one better than 10 Days.
Okay.
So I feel like I go Highwayman, 10 Days. Wait, Highwayman, Scott, Hunter, 10 Days. That's how I rank them.
Nice. Okay, I was gonna rank these real quick, but then I put them in order so they look pretty. Just give me a second. It's so difficult. Okay, so I would definitely agree to. So I've read all the Victorian Rebels that are currently out, and these ones. I'm working on reading her other ones because I'm excited about them. She has some self-published books that I want to read, but I've read these ones. So yeah, I mean, Highwaymen would still be number one. But that does like trade with me between these two, because Dorian is just, he's a little too much for me. Whereas like Christopher is a bit too much, but like he's so like, broken in a different way than like Dorian is. Because like Dorian has a mission the whole time, so he doesn't get broken the same way that Christopher does when he like loses. That's just then it would be Dark and Stormy Night, because the story in this book is so good. So this one also, guys, this has a different cover. If you try to look it up, it's also called Seducing the Stranger. If you can't find the cover, because this cover is being like discontinued because it's the first in a it's the first in a spin-off series, and so it has a different cover that matches that series as well. Then I would probably put this one. I would probably put this one as number 4. Yeah, now I get stuck. Then I would probably do this one. And then The Duke of the Dragon Tattoo, The Scott Bed's Wife, The Highlander, and The Duke. But here's the thing. All of these have 5 stars except these 2. And this is a 4.5 star and this is a 3.5 star. So there's a big gap between The Duke and everybody.
There really is. Wow. I'm nervous about that one now.
Yeah. This is like, oh, okay, I'm gonna calm down. I'm gonna drop these everywhere. They're really all very close to me, but just like these 2 stand very far away from the crowd for me just because of what they made me feel. And then everything else is just like, so in my personal ranking, I would make both of these like 6 stars, and then everything else is 5 stars. But anyway, it's great. How about some of you guys have only read these, right? So you probably don't have a.
Yeah, but if you have read, let us know where this one ranks for you. That would be fun to know if anybody is around. Okay, so I think we only have one more question, and that is this a book you would recommend?
You go first.
I 100% would recommend this. Like, I feel like this would be a great recommendation for people who want a more plot-driven romance, and anyone who loves a lot of angst and a lot of that grumpy sunshine trope. I feel like that's who I would recommend this to. People who like a plot-driven romance, if you like angst and a grumpy sunshine trope.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's anything in here that would make me hesitate to recommend this. Like, if you like Highland romances, I feel like this would be a good recommendation for that too.
Right. So I said yes. And my reasoning is this one is not quite as traumatic as some of those other ones we showed. So I feel that even this one as a standalone, so if some of you who read this as a standalone didn't read the other ones, because How to Love a Duke in 10 Days, the first chapter, very triggering, very traumatic.
Super triggering.
Classic Kerrigan Byrne of like, I'm gonna gut you. Whereas this one, it's traumatic what she's been through, but it's emotional, and it's not as like triggering to me. Like, what's happening to her is bad, but it's not something that I feel like I have to caution everyone about. I'm just be like, hey, the first chapter is kind of intense, but get going. Whereas when I recommend The Highwayman or the Hunter, I'm like, there is bad stuff in the beginning of these. So if you like dark romance, this is a good crossover. Like, I say that all the time. Or like, I'm going to do a video soon that's historical romance for beginners. And I think this is a great crossover into it because it's like you said, the plot is a lot. It's not overly flowery writing. It's still really gritty and sexy writing. Yeah. And so it's a great intro into historical romance that isn't like fluffy. But this book particularly in all of hers I've read, is a great one as a standalone, because it's not gonna, I don't hesitate to recommend it because of like, ooh, they might be triggered by this. Like, I don't think anyone would be triggered by it. So yeah.
No, and I think that's so true, because I definitely hesitate to recommend Duke, because that, like, I didn't realize when I read that how dark that first chapter. I was really taken aback by that first chapter, just because I like the title. Yeah, like the title is cute and like the cover is cute, and so I was like, what? This was before I really knew that Kerrigan Byrne was that she took you there. So so I like how this one is, it could be a standalone, like you could recommend this on its own. So I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Perfect. And I have a feeling that Devil in My Bed is also going to be pretty traumatic because of what happened to Francesca, whose name really isn't Francesca, and what happened to that family. So I'm like, wow, Kerrigan, how are you going to tell that first chapter? Because I bet you that's what it'll be. I got approved for an arc of that one.
He attacked me. He's excited too.
So I got like, it was testing out my email to ask, and St. Martin's was like, yeah, as soon as our arcs are ready, we'll set not a physical one, but like, which I'm like, I don't care, just give it to me. So I'll hopefully be getting that in January, but I have a feeling that one's gonna be. And Francesca is the most man-hating of them. Like, she does have those tendencies we've seen before. Like, she was gonna marry the Duke, but like, she was really disdainful of it, kind of. So she has those. She's the reason why none of them were going to marry. Well, now both of her friends are married, so we'll see. Because that was the pact of the rogues; they weren't going to get married. But yeah, it's great.
It's good. It was a good one.
Should we talk about next month?
Let's do it. Yes, I'm excited.
I have mine. So for our next one, which is supposed to be, what's the date of the next one? Do you have that?
Oh, goodness. No, I'll look it up real quick. You go ahead and talk about it.
A couple things. The next Rake Appreciation Society will take place during the the Romance Takeover Readathon, which if you haven't heard about that yet, which I assume most of you have since you follow both of us, but there isn't a reading sprint currently happening that night, so we're just going to take it over for book club. And I sent Crystal a bunch of books with the title Rake in the title, because I was like, we should read a book with Rake in the title for one of them. And so the book that she like looked through is we picked My Fake Rake by Eva Lee, which is the first in the Union of the Rakes. And I hadn't even read the back of this, which I read the back of it, and I think it's going to be fabulous. Because it has a lot of things I love. Like, it has a bookish girl a brainy girl who is like a scientist bookish academic. Sorry, I'm making stuff up. And she wears glasses. She even has glasses in her hand. It's so cute.
Oh, she does? Oh, I love it. Yay.
And she has a colleague who's an anthropologist.
We love that.
And she teaches him to be a rake so that she can be seen with a rake and hopefully get herself a husband. Which always works out well, but I love fake dating. And I heard Bethany commented on, I said something about this book, and she said that this also has like a cinnamon roll, and he's a bit of a like submissive hero in like his bearing and stuff. And I was like, I'm here for it so much. So, hey, Melissa. Well, you're perfect timing because we're done talking about the book, so you won't be spoiled because she hasn't read it yet. So. But anyway, this is next.
So, yeah, I'm super excited about this next book, Eva Lee. Lay? Is that how you say it? My Fake Rake?
I don't know. I'm saying Lee.
Eva Lee. That sounds better.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be December 10th. That's the second Thursday. So December 10th.
Yay.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm really excited about it. It sounds. These were books of hers I bought completely for what they look like too, because on the
Totally.
wall, they're so beautiful. And I haven't read an Eva Lee book yet, but I own a bunch of them because I found them.
Same. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
What other? We'll have a little bit of wrap up time, maybe. What other things should we talk about? My Fake Rake is a new book. Yes, Melissa. This is going to be December 10th.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking about this one.
Yep.
So
get your copies.
Yeah. Hopefully you have a whole month to get it from your library this time, or whatever you need to do. But it's beautiful. I love how this guy looks too. You can see the veins in his hands. He's bearded and just like,
yeah, he does have a beard, doesn't he? That's pretty rare, huh?
Yeah. And look at how like that deep tuck, like that's a deep in there. Like there is connection happening with this. You returned it because you didn't get to it. Oh no.
My Fake Rake, that's the one she got. That's funny.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I'm super
Yay, Sydney.
Yeah, we have fun plans for January too. So.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. That was Jen's idea. So we have January planned too.
Yeah, it will be a double. It'll be a twofer. It'll be a twofer. But so maybe we'll tell that one to you guys earlier than normal, but we'll keep you in suspense for now because I'm excited about it. But yeah, any other like topics, guys? I mean, otherwise we can wrap it up. But I just love hanging out. Historical romance, the best.
The very best.
Also, I'll show this slipper. I'm also like doing my Viscount Who Loved Me, and I was sending. I know I got my hardcover. I took off the.
So I can't believe that you found those. Those are so beautiful.
I am so happy. I'm still hunting down 3 of them, but I'm gonna find them. I want Sophie and Benedict so bad because I don't have them. And she looks like Cinderella in that one too, which is amazing. But I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
I know, me too.
I've been in a historical bit. Like I have a historical reading vlog coming out either Friday or Saturday. Because in November, I've read like 20 books so far, and 10 of them have been historicals, which isn't normal for me. And I just want to keep reading them because they're just, I read so much dark romance, and I love dark romance. Like we know, I love it. But historical is just, it's that little extra step of fantasy usually, but yet still in the real world and real world problems. And I guess maybe that's why I maybe don't like the feminist stuff too heavy-handed, because I'm like, that's real world problems. Like it's problems. But in a book, I just want us to be okay with the fact that we need to ask your brother for permission, and stealing kisses. Like, oh my God. In the Viscount Who Loved Me, there is a hand flex 5 years before Darcy. I sent a picture to her. Literally, Julia Quinn writes, he flexes his hand because he wants to reach out and touch her, and he holds it back and I was like, oh my God, he's flexing. And I sent it to Izzy too, and she's like, oh my God, is that like when, like, did she write that in like around it? You know, like around when it came out? I was like, nope, she did this 6 years before the movie came out because Julia Quinn knows how to get your blood going.
I love it.
It's like, but stolen kisses. Sorry, distracted by sexy Anthony. But the fact that like we're kissing and it's the most like risky thing we can do is just.
I love that so much.
Part of the series. Yeah, I love the down and dirty as we get to. Love that. But the fact of like we need to sneak kisses and like I'm just, you know, when the touches mean so much and dancing is as close as you get to somebody, like I just love it so much.
I do too. It's honestly just like my favorite thing. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's so good. But that's also like, yeah, I don't know. And I love all the tropes. The tropes in historical romance are even more done to death than like others because there's only so many you can do. But I love them. So like literally like fake dating or like arranged marriage or you've ruined me, now we have to get married. Like those are the things. And they're the I want.
Yep. I know. That's like even when I know that trope is going to be there, I'm like, I'm here for it. Give it to me. I want it.
Yep. I love it so much. So yeah. And I also, I know what I wanted to bring up at book club. Okay, hold on. I got to switch out something. So I am, again, like, I'm in the middle. I just started reading Shanna.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about it a little bit because I'd been told by some people that this is like one of their favorite historicals ever. And I was like, are you sure? Because I was told this before and I've been uncomfortable. And now something about me too is that I don't mind the stuff that annoy other people, right? Let this be known when you watch my Duke and I review. I don't care about the stuff that makes people uncomfortable. If it's hot, I'm here for it. Don't care. But the first 50 pages of The Flame and the Flower made me want to burn it down because I was like, okay, this is different. I'm uncomfortable. But I was home for a birthday party and one of my friends there, we started talking about Bridgerton. We're talking about Bridgerton and just like, oh, we're so excited. And she's like, have you read any Kathleen Woodwise? I hear people say that. And I was like, no, because no. And she's like, Shanna's my favorite book ever written. And I was like, okay. What does this mean? But I have like 4 copies of Shanna because I keep collecting all the pretty covers that there are. And so I started it last night. And it has one of the most creative plots so far I've ever read.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So here's the setup of Shanna. And then I'll, obviously this isn't spoiling it. This is the setup of the book. This woman gets an ultimatum from her father that if she isn't married by 21, he's going to pick a husband for her. He's given her all this time to pick. Like he's like, I've been really generous, but like, I want grandkids and you're taking too long. Like it's one of those classic things. And he's like, you will be married to a person from the peerage. Pick somebody. Like I've given you time. Like I haven't arranged anything. And so it's coming up on her birthday. And so to get around her father's rule, she finds someone from the peerage who's about to hang in 7 days. He is in jail for having killed his paramour who was pregnant with his child, supposedly. And he's literally on death row. So she pays off some people and makes a deal with this guy because she's like, I have to be married to a man of the peerage. You are this. If I marry you and then you die, I've been married. So that's how she wants to get around her dad's rule.
That is absolutely the most creative way I've.
Yes. But like her plan, like she even says it again, like her plan in the jump is to like do that and then let him die. And he's like, just super. He's American, which it's not American yet because this takes place in 1750. So he's a colonial. They call him a colonial. And he's like, well, I'll do it, but the only thing I have left to give is my name. And so I want to get something for it. So if you're going to marry me, it's going to be legal in all the ways. So you're going to spend the night with me and then I'll go back to jail and whatever. And she's like, oh, how dare you? And he's like, you're literally asking to marry me and get the benefits of being my widow. And I'm about to die. So you should give me something. And he's so charming that you're like, girl, just give him something. Like, he's going to die.
Okay. I have to read this now.
There you go. So I'll stop. But like her plan was to marry him and then like get out. And he's like, well, you're going to give me a wedding night and then you can have that. And he expects her to back down. That's the thing. Because he's like, I'm not going to marry this chick. But then she's like, deal. So
are you liking it then?
Yeah. I'm reading it really slowly, though. Because number one, I'm annotating. And number two, the thing that is kind of like prohibitive is that it's written like a classic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's set in 1750, and it feels like I'm reading a Pride and Prejudice style book, but yet we're having really gritty themes. So it's a little bit like I have to change how I read because even a historical like Kerrigan Byrne, you don't have to change how you read. Like it's still
for sure.
But the dude is so snarky, and he's just like, would you deny me the simple pleasures when I'm about to die? And you're like, girl, I would not. So It's great. It's great. But then like that's the plot of this is that he eventually like escapes and is then mad that she didn't give him that wedding night and got away. So that's the plot of this book. And somehow they end up in the Caribbean. So that, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know. Like I've purposely not looked it up. I just started the book. and it also says on the cover, a blazing novel of eternal love. Like who says that about a historical romance? And it's 670 pages.
Oh my goodness, that is a lot of pages.
It is, but so I'm just gonna kind of I've read 70 pages and that's all that it looks like.
And that's all that's happened in 70 pages?
Oh no, it's a lot. Also, like, you know, it's pretty big on there. Yeah. I picked this copy because I'm annotating, so I picked a copy that had like space and stuff, but just the lady balls on this woman to be like, I'm gonna marry a prisoner so I don't have to marry a peer of the realm. Like, because her and her dad just have this, like, it's like they love each other, but she's trying to one-up him at the cost of, I'm gonna marry someone on death row. Like, but he's immediately obsessed with her. So I think you're going to love it because he immediately is calling her like my love and like my dearest wife and just all this stuff. And he's like, I'm going to love you for all the days that I have left, which are only supposed to be a couple days. Like, it's really cute. So anyway, so yeah, that's happening. But thanks everybody for hanging out with us. And
it was super fun, you guys. Thanks so much for joining our first book for the book club. Thanks for agreeing to do this, Jen. I am so happy that you said yes. Like I was just so glad. I was so scared to ask you. And then when you said yes, I was like, yes.
One of these days you need to stop being scared of me because I don't know what else I can do. Like, I don't know what else I can do.
I'm not really scared of you, but I'm just like, I don't know if she likes me or not, or if I should ask this. So there you go. Anyway, it was fun. I'm excited for our next book. It's going to be a good time. So awesome. Thanks everybody for joining. And I guess,
yeah, you just hit beforehand. No, you just turn off the live.
Okay.
Bye everybody.
Bye.